So today I'm talking about some cold CGC 9.8 comics that you can buy for fair prices. So let's have a look here. 10 9.8s to talk about. First one up is an X-Men Origins Deadpool, #1 in the CGC 9.8. I'm kind of surprised that this one hasn't got a little bit hotter with Deadpool 3 rumors kind of being confirmed. That Deadpool movie's coming out in the MCU. So this one, it retells the origin of Deadpool. And for myself, definitely I think if you're the biggest Deadpool fan, you want a New Mutants 98. And maybe my second favorite 9.8 as a Deadpool fan is Deadpool #1 from 1997. First T-Ray and Blindell. This one's kind of cool here. But maybe third in line for me, and I've thought about purchasing this one in the past, is the X-Men Origins Deadpool. Yeah, and I'm seeing some pretty decent prices out there. So this one's, fitting on a cold list, looking like a decent value. And I can imagine, Deadpool 3 comes out in the MCU, like this one's like $225 to $250 maybe in the 9.8. So we'll talk about prices in a sec. 142 9.8s in the blue label. 50% is the 9.8 ratio. So prices, I did see one sell for $129.99, so $130 we'll call it. Now, I think that's the decent fair value. I seeing one on eBay right now for sale for $149.99, and it was kind of tempting for me because this is probably my third favorite Deadpool key, I would say, and had decent shipping to Canada as well. But I think I'm going to lay off of it. But if you're really interested in this one up on eBay for $149.99, I think it's kind of the higher end of fair value right now, but still a decent value, I think, because as I said, I think this one's probably a little bit undervalued right now. When Deadpool 3 comes out, I could see this one being like selling for about $250. So if you can get it for $150, that's not too bad. Yeah, definitely one to consider if you're a Deadpool fan, I think. X-Men Origins Deadpool #1 in the 9.8. All right, second cold one here. A Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends #1 in the CGC 9.8. This one's first appearance of Firestar. It's kind of like an adaptation of the Spider-Man cartoon that I think it came out in the late 70s. It's a cool one, though. A pretty old book, 1981, a cool one in the 9.8. There's 133 9.8s out there, so one of 133, pretty cool. Maybe Firestar's got some potential in there. I'm pretty sure she's like a female superhero, so maybe there's some potential there. 20% the 9.8 ratio, so maybe not too relatively rare for like an early 80s book. Seeing some 9.8s sell. One in an auction, $536.87. Yeah, I think given this book a 1 of 33, that's looking like a decent value. Yeah, I think it kind of fits on a cold list, and I do think $536.87 is a good price right now. $549.95 also saw one sell for. So maybe this one is one to consider, and yeah, a decent value fitting on a cold list right now. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends #1. Okay, next one's pretty cool. A bit surprised this one hasn't heated up a little bit more too. SpiderMan Noir #1. Yeah, first appearance of SpiderMan Noir. Certainly, I think you can probably expect him to be in the next Into the Spider-Verse 2 movie, maybe. And certainly, this one hasn't heated up like an Ultimate Fallout 4 and Edge of the Spider-Verse 2. So this one might be one to think about right now. 295 9.8s in the blue label. This just for kind of the normal first print cover. There's a variant version of this one too. 63.3% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8s. And I'm pretty sure the sort of normal covered version is the more wanted and more expensive one in the 9.8 rather than the variant. So I think people are just liking the eye appeal a little bit more. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit more rare when you look at the relative rarity and the 9.8 ratio. So Spider-Man Noir #1 in this first print, $493.88. I saw 9.8 in a blue label sell. $589.95. I saw another one. I think that's kind of the range now. And, maybe if you're the biggest Spider-Man fan, you want all these Into the Spider-Verse appearances, it's probably a decent time to buy this one right now. Yeah, and then Edge of Spider-Verse 2, or, Spider-Verse 2 comes out eventually, and maybe Spider-Man Noir gets in there. I'm sure it'll be a little bit more expensive than $493.88. So, Spider-Man Noir #1's one to think about right now. Okay, next one's a pretty cool one. It's DC 52, #11. It's a first full appearance of Kate Kane, who's like the new Batwoman. And I'm pretty sure there was a show about this Batwoman. Never watched it, don't know anything about it, but kind of cool. Pretty cool cover, you know, a first appearance that maybe has some potential. 523 9.8s in the blue label. Yeah, the price is looking right. You know, maybe if you're interested in this one, I'm pretty sure it was much hotter in the past, like when that show was kind of, it might still be on TV, but when it really sort of hit hard. Now the prices are looking more colder and more reasonable, certainly. 65.8% is the 9.8 ratio. And seeing one of these sell for $79.99. Yeah, I think that's kind of a bang-on fair value price. You know, maybe if you're a little more patient, you get it closer to $70 or, you know, into the $60 kind of range. But DC 52, number 11, if you're a big Batman fan, this could be a, you know, a decent potential first appearance to think about and a key issue to think about. All right, next one here. A G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 100. Yeah, this one I think is probably one of the coolest sort of non-key G.I. Joe, you know, comics to buy in the CGC 9.8. I think this has got that classic Cobra Commander cover that's going to be super collected over time. This one's, you know, it's wanted. There's people kind of paying up for this one, and, you know, I think people really think it's a really cool cover, like me as well. And a great collector item, 26 9.8s in the blue label. So a 1 of 26. This is a non-key, you know, only the biggest G.I. Joe fans are going to be thinking about this one. I've certainly saw some auctions of this one. I had been really tempted in the past because it just is a great eye-appealing cover, and certainly one that, yeah, I think it'll be really collected over time by G.I. Joe fans. A 1 of 26 in the 9.8, so maybe consider this one in the raw, and maybe you find some near mint raws to grade, and maybe get more 9.8s out there. 32.9% is the 9.8 ratio. So this one, interesting, there's only 26 of them. I wasn't seeing too many completed sales, but I did see this one in the past sell in auctions from sort of right around $200 up to like $225, right in that range. Yeah, there's definitely people wanting this one and paying up to $200 for it. For good reason, yeah, just a super eye-appealing cover, and I think right around $200, it's totally worth it. And one you can enjoy as a G.I. Joe fan, and I think it'll kind of steadily climb in price as one of these sort of underfollowed cult issues that just look so good that is super collected in the 9.8. Okay, next one is a really cool one. Yeah, this is just got a lot of reasons to love this one. Marvel Team Up number 117. It's a Wolverine and Spidey team up. Yeah, classic cover too. This one's looking pretty cool. I think for this one, occasionally you're trying to see quite a few sellers get, you know, really, you know, premium buck for this one because it is, you know, sort of an underfollowed one, but definitely has great eye appeal. But you can get it for a decent price. I think fitting on a cold list for sure. There's a 94 9.8s in the blue label. 35.9% of all graded copies are 9.8s. So yeah, not too good in the relative rarity. More about the 1 of 94, which is pretty great for this comic. So you're seeing most of them sell, and quite a few have sold in the last sort of 2 months from $175 to $200. I think there is one online right now where it might be like $400 or best offer or something like that, and that's going to be too expensive. But for this one, you're patient, under $200, I think it's just looking like a good value. And this, you know, I think this one does have a first appearance. What was it? I forget the first appearance. I'll have it in some of the information down here. But more about just that awesome Wolvie Spidey cover. And under 200 is looking like a good value, I think. Okay, next one here. Another Marvel Team-Up. We'll go with Marvel Team-Up number 53. So this one's a little bit older, a little bit more expensive in the 9.8 because it's tougher to find and older. But this is the first John Byrne X-Men art. Yeah, and John Byrne, this is a 1977 comic, and he went on to do, you know, X-Men, going into the Uncanny X-Men, and that's one of my favorite runs in comic books, period. So first John Byrne X-Men, it is noted on the CGC label, so this is a pretty big key issue, knowing what Byrne did with X-Men. 57 9.8s in the blue label, a 1 of 57. Like, if you're the biggest John Byrne fan, this is tempting for sure. It's a cool one. 13.3%, the 9.8 ratio. So this is into the 70s, so, you know, a decent 9.8 rarity for a 1977 book. So seeing one sell for $499.99. And there was one, I believe, in an off-white to white pages that sold for $499.99 or best offer. So white pages, you're kind of getting a deal done around $500, I think, in the white pages. And I believe, you know what, I think there's one on eBay right now too where it's like I think it's like 1,000 and something or best offer kind of deal. So yeah, these rare ones where there's not many in the 9.8, a lot of times you'll see sellers trying to get absurd prices. So you want to make sure you do your pricing research. But $500 for the first John Byrne X-Men in the perfect condition, I think is looking like a pretty cool collector item. Certainly if you're a John Byrne fan as well. Okay, next one is, I think, fitting on a cold list, a pretty cool one. It's a Nightwing limited series, #1. From the 1990s, this one, 1995, Nightwing Limited Series #1. Pretty cool collector item in the 9.8. A cheap one, an affordable one, and I've been on the record before saying, Nightwing's got some potential, I think. And, usually I talk about, Tale of the Teen Titans 44, I think it is, when Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. That's kind of the 80s key to get. But this one, definitely more under the radar in the 90s. Certainly any kind of Nightwing movie, I think this one would heat up, and it's just a really decent, affordable one right now. 44 9.8s in the blue label, too. So a 1 of 44 collector items, pretty great. If you're the biggest Nightwing fan, absolutely. 44% to 9.8 percentage. 109.99 I'm seeing one sell for, complete listing. Most of them are mostly best offers. I think 109.99 is probably bang on fair. If you're patient on this one, maybe you get it under 100. If you want it right now, maybe like 125, 130, I think is still probably pretty fair for this one. Yeah, one to consider if you're a Nightwing fan. I like the cover on this one too. So yeah, Nightwing Limited Series #1 from 1995 in the 9.8, right around $100 is looking like a good cold value. Okay, next one too is a neat one. As a big Jim Lee fan, thinking about this one too. A Marvel Age #104 in the 9.8. There's not a lot of this one in the 9.8, so my first thinking on this one was like, wow, like cool Jim Lee book, awesome. Maybe I'll probably try to get it in the raw for like $5 or $10 to just have a cool Jim Lee collector item. Rather than, there's not a lot in the 9.8 here, 5 9.8s. 50% is a 9.8 ratio, so there's only been 10 ever graded in the blue label. I saw one of these sell though, one of those 5 for $212.50. Like, unless you're the biggest Jim Lee fan, maybe you'd want this one for $212.50, but again, a cool one that I'm probably going to look out in the raw and maybe pick up for $5 or $10, hopefully over the next year or something like that. But yeah, Marvel Age 104, if you're a Jim Lee fan, one to think about, absolutely. All right, last one on the cold list today. This one I don't even think is cold, but it's one that I should have talked about like 6 months ago. Some people on the team were talking about it, and I don't think I've ever discussed this one. So it's a New Mutants Annual #2. It's the first, it says on the label, first U.S. appearance of Psylocke. So I don't know why this is the U.S. appearance, but New Mutants Annual #2. First Psylocke. Psylocke certainly an X-Men. A lot of people are speculating on MCU X-Men. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not sure if this one's cold because people are speculating on this one. And you'll kind of be amazed at some of the prices, but it makes sense. Yeah, this is just a book I haven't checked in on very much. 178 9.8s in the blue label. A 1 of 178, pretty cool. This is a giant-sized issue, and then it's got this pink cover, which to me looks like it's going to be a pretty tough cover to have a high-grade book. So the 9.8 ratio is looking pretty awesome, actually. 12.8% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8, and this is kind of getting into the mid to late 80s. 12.8, but that's a great 9.8 ratio for a mid to late 80s comic. So it's pretty rare in the 9.8 for Psylocke. Seeing one in an auction go for $944 in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, this is one I should have been talking about it and maybe recommending it as a good underfollowed X-Men key to think about, because this one was like definitely under 500 a year ago. Let's call it like about, early last year. So it's done well, and I still wanted to include it on a cold list because it's not like Avengers Annual 10 and, Uncanny X-Men 266, first full appearance in Gambit. Like, all those books are really the obvious ones to kind of speculate on for MCU X-Men, but maybe a New Mutants Annual #2 might fit into your plans. First, Psylocke in the 9.8. A pretty rare one in the 9.8. Yeah, that's a great 9.8 ratio for kind of a mid to late 80s book. And I would still aim for under $1,000 in that one. And, these MCU X-Men books right now, I'm not sure if I would really recommend to buy them. They just seem so hot. And then there's some letdown maybe if, Gambit doesn't get in the MCU or some of these characters don't get in the MCU, then there could be some letdown. So tough call, but one I did want to mention on the cold list today. All right. Thanks so much for watching, team, though. Yep, just wanted to get through some cold ones like we always like to do, because yeah, you know, the cold ones are going to be a better price. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there doing the hot comic books, but hot comic books usually means really expensive prices. Like the books are hot because there's some promo, then the demand is increased and the prices increase, and that doesn't last forever. So once the demand goes back down, the prices go back down with a lot of the hot comic books. So the cold list is all about just thinking about some cool ones that you could buy right now that aren't hot and inflated in price. And yeah, hopefully you got some ideas here with the list of 10. I'll have a list in the description below of all the books we talked about if you want to have a quick look. All right, team, thanks so much for watching, though, as always, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, team, if you're liking this content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.